Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Illinois Green Party. I'm your host, David Rich. We have a recurring guest here, Dr. Guy McPherson. Hello, Mr. McPherson. How are you, sir?
I'm practically perfect in every way, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for coming
That's
back
from
on,
our.
because last time we were on, it was huh?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Last time we had you on, you gave us some a pretty a serious walloping of information there, concerning what's going on globally, with climate change and whatnot. And so I thought it'd be apt, especially in the thick of all this nutso weather going on. Again, as we were just saying, 12
hmm
feet of snow, east of San Francisco. Wildfires in Texas, 5 times the size of New York City. Little to no snow in the East Coast, but a lot of rain, which again is a sign of temperatures rising. Um, so just nutso stuff going on, and just on another side of this whole thing, and people in across Europe are protesting like intensely. Have you heard about the farmers' protests across Europe? Yeah. Okay.
Oh
Just
yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's like unfortunate because I mean they're actually advocating for like keeping the fertilizers and the synthesizers and so on, which is not great that they're doing that. But I cannot fault them for being upset,
Right.
because like the EU is just coming in with these draconian regulations, right or wrong. That's not the point here. It's just devastating on them. So it's really tough. Um, and it's a mess. It's a mess because this is one of my fears, just on the socio-politically economic level of all of this, is you're just going to have like disparate opinions, ideologies of what to do, that are going to get angry on all possible sides and just converge on each other at one point. um that's not great. Anyway, on to you, sir. What's going on? How further along are we than we were about whatever long, 6, 7, 8 months ago?
Well, it's pretty interesting. I quoted a paper in the annual review of Earth and Planetary Sciences for a few years. It indicated that we would have an ice-free Arctic Ocean
Right.
in 2016 plus or minus 3 years. And so I made the proclamation that we're going to be extinct by 2017. And fortunately,
Right.
that paper turned out to be incorrect. They used a linear projection, and so
Okay.
that turned out to point to the wrong answer. Now, interestingly, the lead author of that paper is leading another effort through his institution. He's a professor at the U.S. Naval Postgraduate School, and so they have begun, I think it was 2.5 years ago, they started with a 6-month ensemble forecast, which is an actual prediction, not a projection. And it's rooted in abundant information. And so far, it has been very conservative from a scientific standpoint. That is, there was less ice in the Arctic Ocean last year than they projected there would be. But for the year or two, I can't remember which it was before that, they were scientifically conservative. In any event, I suspect that they will continue to put out a conservative forecast. And what that means is about the first week of April this year, we will know whether we will have an ice free Arctic Ocean or not in late September. Now, that's really important to know because an ice-free Arctic Ocean has not happened in some 70,000 years, since before there was any civilization present on the planet. And the rate of environmental change in the wake of an ice-free Arctic Ocean will be so stunningly, catastrophically rapid that I can't imagine we'll survive, much less almost any other species on the planet. So that's a bummer.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's a huge bummer. Sorry, I didn't realize you were at a lull there. Yeah. No, it's a huge bummer. Bummer is a nice word for that. Um, and let's kind of go talk about why that is the case. Like, some people might not be in the know, be like, okay, what does it care? What does it matter if there's no ice in the Arctic? Who cares?
Right.
There's
And
there's
so,
sun reflecting back. Go ahead. Give us the science behind that.
yeah, the ice floating on the Arctic Ocean serves as a primary source of albedo, or reflectance of incoming sunlight. So without that ice, imagine going from this
Mhm.
to this.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
you just switch some from something white with ice and snow to something deep blue. And as a consequence, just looking at albedo alone, that will be sufficient to increase, according to a peer-reviewed paper in Nature Communications, put out June 15th, 2021, that will be enough to increase just the loss of aerosol masking by 133% over land. This is a huge change in a very short period of time. And because every species on the planet has evolved through natural selection to persist in the location where it is, evolving through natural selection with all the species around it, well, you change one fundamental variable by a profound amount, and that's going to be problematic for our species and almost certainly every other species on the planet. We evolved for a certain set of conditions, and you change those conditions, and we no longer are happily getting along.
Mhm. No, it's devastating.
And the amount of ice on the Arctic Ocean is the single most important issue over which we have the least control. There's nothing you and I can do to change whether we're going to have an ice-free Arctic Ocean or not. And in fact, renowned professor, where did he go? Where did that information go? James Anderson, the Harvard atmospheric scientist for discovering the link between chlorofluorocarbons and the Antarctic ozone hole, said, quote, "The chance there will be permanent ice in the Arctic after 2022 is essentially zero." Here we are. It's 2024. So he was wrong by at least 2 years. And that was in Forbes on January 15th, 2018. Fast forward to April 23rd, 2021, Jennifer McKinnon, who is at the University of California, San Diego, and also at the Scripps Institution, part of the Scripps Institute, says she expects an ice-free Arctic Ocean in 2022. And so here's a couple of renowned scholars who missed it by at least a couple or 3 years. And so
Yeah.
hopefully that'll keep happening.
Well,
Hopefully
okay, now
we're
I
going
want
to
to
get this wrong. Hopefully
forever.
we're going to get this,
Uh,
yeah, for at least a very long time.
yeah. That's not going to happen. And that's okay. So I want to talk about this too, because this is important. Because a lot of times I see, at least amongst in the public, people say, "See, the scientists were wrong, therefore it's not going to happen."
Right.
No, that just means we just sort of pushed it off a little bit.
Yeah.
Predictions are very difficult to do, for sure, no doubt. So, like, if scientist gets one wrong, that does not mean that the said phenomenon is not going to occur. It means it's probably coming at that point of being wrong. It's coming probably even more quickly than you think it is, because they're not 100% incorrect in their analysis. Predictions
Right.
are just okay.
Right. And I think it was Yogi Berra, who's the master of the malapropism, who said predictions are difficult, especially about the future.
Right. He might have been the most witty person ever. Like, he is
Right.
just so highly quotable. But anyway, that's funny. I like that. Um, yeah, it's tough. It's tough stuff, especially, and climate patterns are very complex. A lot of variables, a lot of components involved there, a lot of relationships and configurations and reconfigurations moment to moment. It's tough to do. Now they're
Right.
generalized because the patterns are so large. It's kind of easy to generalize them and get some ideas there. But again, just don't think because these scientists were incorrect by a couple of years that it's not going to happen, because it just means it's happening. It's coming sooner than later at this
Right.
point.
Right.
It's going to
Absolutely.
happen if we keep on this track, unless
Right.
the aliens
Absolutely.
come down and change it.
If that's what you're hoping for, you, I don't know.
I'm not going to hold my breath, but I'm just looking for like, at least, logically possible options.
Right.
So real quick, I just want to say hi to Reagan Parenton. Hello, sir. How are you? Lone Wanderer 99. We got Obsolete Optics on here. Thank you everybody for tuning in. They're chatting here on the side. So yeah, anybody who sees on the right here, there's comments. You want to ask, have questions, comments, concerns for Dr. McPherson, please feel free. So yeah. Oh, and Andrew Bryan is watching, so thank you. Okay, so what do you think about the political situation going on globally as far as like what was the name of that gathering, the big one? Oh, it's an acronym. OAN or something. What?
COP, the Conference of Parties.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
they realized that they really hadn't done enough.
yeah, 27 years in a row, 27
Right.
conference of
Yeah.
parties in a row, and well, what do you know? All those people still don't. None of them will talk. None of them will tell us that we're above 2C already. And the 2C
Oh,
idea,
yeah. No, they.
the two the 2C idea, by the way, came from an economist, William Nordhaus. He's the one who said it's
Okay.
2C. Now, the Advisory Group on Greenhouse Gases, the predecessor to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the Advisory Group on Greenhouse Gases said we should be worried about 1 degree C, not 2. That at 1 degree C, we trigger these self-reinforcing feedback loops. Well, we're beyond 2 now, according to Andrew Weiglickson's October 9th, 2020 book, The Event Horizon, and a few governments of the world joined Glickson in October 2023. You can find that information at guymcpherson.com with a post from October 30th, 2023. So earlier in that month, several government agencies, including NASA in the United States, concluded that we were beyond 2. And Regan Parenton, who you mentioned is in the chat there, pointed that out to me. So thanks to Regan for that
Thank you,
information.
Regan. Yeah, that's okay. So that's the tipping point, isn't it? That's the critical point.
Yes, because it triggers self-reinforcing feedback loops over which we no longer have control. And even one self-reinforcing feedback loop makes climate change irreversible. And the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change concluded that we had triggered a self-reinforcing feedback loop in September of, I think it was 2022. It might have been 2021, with their report on oceans and the cryosphere. So we've already gone past the point of no return, and even the IPCC, which was designed to fail, has concluded as much. And I point out that the IPCC was designed to fail because it was created during the Reagan administration in the United States. And there's an article called How the IPCC Got Started at the Environmental Defense Fund blog. And it's written by Michael Oppenheimer. He is the Albert G. Milbank Professor of Geosciences and International Affairs at the Woodrow Wilson School and the Department of Geosciences at Princeton University. So this is a knowledgeable individual who actually went back and kept track of how the IPCC got started and concluded that it was designed to fail because of the Reagan administration and because it replaced the organization, the Advisory Group on Greenhouse Gases, that concluded that 1 degree C was past the point of no return.
Interesting. And I do know that, but just because we were below, say, 1.5 degrees Celsius or I'm sorry, Celsius, 1.5, didn't mean we were out of the woods. I mean, it was still an increase sufficient enough to do some damage. Was, at that point, we thought we could still kind of like maybe, deter it and do something about it. 2, done. Ain't
Right.
nothing you're going to do to stop that. If we're at 2 degrees Celsius, it's above the start of the Industrial Revolution. So 1750-ish. It's over. That sucks. But
right.
okay.
Yeah, and so we're beyond 2. We have triggered self-reinforcing feedback loops, which means climate change is irreversible.
Right.
The IPCC also concluded in its October 8th, 2018 report, global warming of 1.5 degrees, and that's 1.5 degrees C, obviously. And in that, they concluded that, quote, even abrupt geophysical events do not approach current rates of human-driven change, end quote. So what that means is what we're driving right now is going so fast that it exceeds the rate of change in the absence of the dinosaur extinction.
Right.
So we're
Volcanoes erupting and earthquakes and solar flares, and like that couldn't touch our advances.
so we're beating an asteroid.
We're
We're
beating an
so
asteroid.
good.
Yeah.
We're
No,
so good. We're
yeah.
defeating it.
Don't ever underestimate human intellect and will. Um, Creatively and especially destructively. If we want it gone, it's gone, baby. So yeah, no, that's nuts. And so you got 2020. You still have 2026 on your radar as far as like the year it's all the bad things go.
Only if we have an ice-free Arctic Ocean this year.
Right. Okay.
And that conclusion was based on the ice-free Arctic Ocean predicted by James Anderson at Harvard and by Jennifer McKinnon at UC San
Yeah.
Diego and the Scripps Institution. So if they're wrong by more than 2 years in the case of James Anderson and by more than 3 years in the case of Jennifer McKinnon, that'd be awesome.
Yes.
Then that tells me we have a little bit more time.
Yeah.
So
do you ever
let's
sit back? Go ahead.
So let's cheer for all scientists to be wrong all the time. That's not exactly what I'm saying here.
No. That would be bad if scientists were wrong all the time. We would not have any facts or truths to contend
Right.
with. But okay, yeah, no, that is a drag. Do you ever like sit back and kind of like imagine what it's going to be like as it's going down? Like what the public's reaction is going to be. I'm like, I think a lot like of just a war-torn society. Like, unfortunately, I think of like the imagery from like Gaza now, and it's going to be like that all over.
Yeah.
It's going to be just
Yes.
absolutely miserable and awful.
Absolutely. I think Gaza is a precursor to what we're all facing. And it didn't get to Gaza first. It's been happening throughout Africa, especially Northern Africa, for years, for many years. So the international conflicts have been going on for a very long time. You could argue that people tell me all the time, what about water wars? When do they start? Well, Lester Brown pointed out
Oh,
in the 1970s that we're already fighting water wars. They're just disguised as grain wars. And one of the primary reasons
interesting.
one of the primary reasons we don't call them wars anymore because they're approved by Congress. So one of the reasons there's a police action in Gaza right now, I'm sure, is because of the grains. That area grows a tremendous amount of grains and also has some remaining fossil fuels.
Resources is probably the number one reason, or amongst all the reasons for war and all of history, resources is probably in most of those lists of reasons why. I know that like there's a theory or a hypo, whatever, this suggestion that one of the reasons why Israel, the nation, kept the land it kept is because of the aquifer that's underneath it. There's like this huge aquifer, and like nobody's giving that up. That's not gonna happen.
Right.
So because resources are very fundamental to living, so that's how that goes. And
Right.
people don't know how to share. People don't know how to share. There's still a lot of water in the world, folks. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, so anyways.
When I was in graduate school, early in my graduate student days in the early 1980s, my professors were talking about the Ogallala Aquifer, which is the biggest one in North America, and it was getting drained dry. This was 40 years ago. We knew it was getting drained 40 years ago.
Exactly.
And what did we do? Must go faster. We've been draining it ever faster.
That's one of your mottos, isn't it? Your slogans. Must go faster.
That's a slogan of industrial civilization. Must go faster.
It really is. It's almost a law, I think. I mean, it's insane. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like technology. I'm not a Luddite. But I don't know, the cost it takes on us to get this cell phone in my hand, and I love my cell phone. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that I can listen to any song and look up any question and read books. I have 1,000 books on my cell phone. that's cool, you know,
Right.
but, but,
I,
I get you.
you know, long before I had one of these, and I was a jerk. A lot of people would argue that I still am, but I delivered a presentation, and after I was done, I said, raise your hand if, like me, you don't have a cell phone, because we had just watched a short film about the coltan, the complex ore that was being mined in Africa
Yeah.
and killing women and children.
Oh, it's terrible.
And so I thought that was a
Somebody
terrible
said happy
thing.
birthday. Is today your birthday?
Actually, I turned 16 5 days ago.
Happy 16th, happy sweet 16.
There
Lone
you go.
Wanderer 99 said happy birthday. So happy birthday, guy. Very cool.
So that was on February 29th, if you're keeping track.
Oh, you're one of those. So you're okay. So that's your
Yeah.
actually, in a sense, you're mathematically actually.
I'm 16. I've had 16 birthdays. And
That's great. You look great. Nice.
my ex used to tell me to act my age, so I did, and she didn't appreciate that
You
either.
said I do. No, of course. That's for that. That's why the word X is the pivotal one there. So um, okay. Well, let's talk more about more that's going on in concerning the global climate change issue than just the Arctic ice melting away. Because obviously carbon dioxide is the main culprit here. The increase in our carbon dioxide. Last time I checked, we were at about 440 parts per million, which is extraordinarily high. Like
Yes.
Pliocene is that? Am I saying that right? Level, like so. That's like a long time ago, folks. When the Earth was mostly uninhabitable by people. So, so we're back. You know, it just takes a little time to kind of like kick in. To that
Right.
extent, can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, there have already been 7 species in the genus Homo that have gone extinct, mostly because of rapid changes of climate. And that was before we got on board, before Homo
Yeah.
sapiens showed up. Actually, Homo sapiens sapiens, the wise ape. So we had to do it twice just to prove that we're doubly wise. And so we've had all these other species in the genus Homo go extinct, largely because of climate change. You think it can't happen to us?
Right.
And this is something I read every day, mostly in my email inbox, that I'm lying, that
Yeah.
just making it up, that it can't possibly happen to us, blah, blah, blah. Well, don't you think there were some individuals of those previous species that were among the last individuals, and they're looking around and they're seeing everybody else died, but surely it can't happen to me. It makes no sense.
Yes, and the it can't happen to us. No, there's no basis for that at all. I mean, obviously it can because it has a billion times. Bad things happen to people all the time. So I don't know why you think you're like exempt from it. Um, but I mean, I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine out in Portland, Oregon, because we're on a fault line and there's volcanoes all around us and everything else, and um, my buddy was talking about getting a bug out bag, which is just a prep bag. So if things go bad, you can bug out right away. And you got like 3, 4 days of supplies. My friend's like, oh, what makes you so special that that's going to happen here? And I'm like, dude, bad things happen. People die of natural disasters every single day. So the real question is, what makes you so special that it won't happen to you?
Right.
I mean, just
Right.
statistically, it's going to happen to somebody, to people all over the globe. I don't know why you think you're exempt from danger. So, nature isn't that great. So yeah, right.
Right. And because I didn't know much about climate change at the time, I left my active life on campus and moved to an off-grid homestead. I lived off-grid for more than 10 years because I
That's
thought that would allow me to live a little bit longer. But then I discovered the best kept secret in climate science, which is the aerosol masking effect. And that's the consummate catch-22. So at the same time industrial activity produces those greenhouse gases that are warming up the planet, industrial activity also produces these aerosols that go up into the stratosphere. it takes about 5 days for all of those aerosols to fall out of the atmosphere, according to James
Mm,
Hansen in several papers and
mm.
presentations. So 5 days, 5 days. So if we slow down or stop industrial civilization, if everybody starts living off grid as I did, that would be a really bad idea because that would hasten our demise, not slow it down. So that was a classic case of how fucking stupid could I be?
No, I thought your intentions were noble and admirable. I would love to live off grid. Are you kidding me? That'd be awesome. Somebody come and take me away. That'd be fabulous. No, and by most stretch, is he implying that you should go out with your Aquanet spray bottles and spray cans and start spraying it in order to keep the ultraviolet rays away from the surface of the earth? Please don't do that. But what is serious about this is that we are stuck. He's right. It's a conundrum. It's almost a paradox in the sense. Um, and you take it away, bad things happen. You keep it there, bad things increase as well. I mean, it's a catch-22. It's a that's we put ourselves here, and I don't know what to say about it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Do you
well,
ever think of like any sort of like extreme example of a solution to all this?
well, yes, but before I get there, somebody pointed out in
Okay.
the chat that it's called the McPherson paradox because I think I was the
Oh,
first person to point out that that the goal of must go faster, if we actually slowed it or stopped it, that would lead to an even more rapid rate of environmental change that would cause our extinction even sooner than where we're headed right now. So that's the bummer part. And because I rattled on for so long, I already forgot what your question was. Sorry.
do you see any sort of like very precise, nuanced, or extreme solution to all this?
Well, for a while, I believed that the mere reflection framework, which you can find described at meer.org, and that stands for Mirrors for Earth's Energy Reflection or Rebalancing. In any event, meer.org. And I thought that was a great idea when Dr. Ye Tao first came up with it. And it didn't work. It didn't pan out. That's
Right.
been, let's see, that was in 2018, I believe, when we were talking about it, and it just hasn't gotten off the ground.
No.
I'm sure that a few billionaires and a few high-ranking government officials know about it, but nobody got on board, and so here we are, still waiting for somebody to save the day. And I think it's too little, too late
Yeah.
if we're going to go that route.
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. Like a lot of people would have to do that simultaneously or within proximity uh, to get that to accomplish anything. And yeah, I don't know if that would work. And even if that was somehow like even slightly effective, there's still, of course, other things going on. Like, I mean, can you get the mirror effect over the Arctic Ocean? But
Well,
that's really just on land.
right. Well, there are all kinds of ideas that have been floated around with the mirror reflection framework. One of them involves placement of the mirrors, and
But
the mirrors can have local positive effects. So if you can get everybody in your neighborhood to put mirrors in their backyard or on their roof, then that'll actually cool that particular location. If we can do the same thing, unfortunately, initially when I learned of the mirror reflection framework, the idea was that it would require enough mirrors, physical mirrors, to cover a relatively small amount of land. But the most recent thing I've seen indicates that it will require an area the size of the United States. I don't know if that's the continental United States or the whole shebang, but either way, it's way more mirrors than I suspect anybody's going to get on board with. And I suspect it's more than we can build given the amount of sand available on Earth. Sand is one of the most abundant materials. That's what they make mirrors from. But is there enough sand in the world? It would surprise me.
I don't know. I don't know, and I don't know the rate of efficiency of turning sand into mirror. Like how many granules they would need. So
Right.
there's a lot of sand depends on the unit of measurement. If you do grain by grain, sure, there's a lot. But as far as like actual quantity needed to do that, I don't know, probably not. And I don't
Right.
think there's going to be rich people who don't want to give up the sand on their beach. So that's how that works.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even though on many of the world's beaches, more than 50% of that sand is plastic.
Oh, because of all the plastic and the pollution. Oh, yeah. They're finding
Yes.
that. Yeah,
Yes,
that's true.
absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's
So,
crazy. Yeah, they're finding like microbial sized plastic. Not that small, but super small little pieces of plastic like all over the place. Yeah.
right. And we eat what, a credit card's worth of plastic every day, I think it
Oh, I
is.
don't know. I didn't hear that, but okay.
Because it's in everything.
It is and everything. No, we actually
Every
have
week.
plastic in our bodies. I do know we have plastic in our bodies because
Yes,
of
yes.
just food consumption.
It's a credit card's worth of plastic every week that we
Okay,
consume. And that's a lot.
that
You
is a
know,
lot.
when did that film The Graduate come out? 1972,
The Graduate,
1973?
yeah, something like that. Early '70s, late '60s, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the older gentleman turns to Dustin Hoffman, who was really young at that time, and he
Mm.
says plastics, son. And Dustin Hoffman is, what are you talking about? Plastics, they're the future.
Right.
Well, seems like they're the past now.
Yeah, no, somebody made a lot of money with the up and coming of plastic products. And remember, plastic has petroleum in it, so it ties into the fossil fuel thing. Not just that it's bad for our digestion or our bodies to ingest it, but that's almost a given. Um, but these things are made from fossil fuels, from petroleum, which is made from oil, which is again at the heart of like the problem here. So, right.
Somebody in the chat said microplastics found in every placenta tested, and my solution for that is to stop testing the damn things.
Okay. Interesting. Have you heard anything recently from the IPCC? Like, I mean, because they're known for, they're considered a very conservative scientific organization, meaning that when they publish their reports, papers, what have you, they started researching on that data like probably 5 to 10 years prior, and so like it's even antiquated by the time it's published, and that's why you see them coming out with constant updates, and never one time has an update said, "Sorry, we got it wrong. It's actually not as bad as we thought." It's always, "Sorry, we got it wrong. It's worse."
Yes, absolutely. And for that reason, I don't much follow the IPCC. I mean, I pay attention when they have their COP, when they have their conference of parties every year, if only to listen to the same nonsense year after year. This is the one that's going to fix it. COP27 is the solution. And now, of course, COP28 is going to be the solution. And of course, they hold these meetings in super cities, places like Dubai, and
Mhm.
people fly in obviously from all over the world. And my response to that is, most of us, the masses, the people, will
Mhm.
say, are charged with conserving fossil fuels. The billionaires, they're charged with conserving aerosol masking. So they keep flying those planes, they keep
Mhm.
using the oil just so there's a little bit of aerosol masking so we don't all die right away. We got to thank him for something, right?
Yeah, I guess. But okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't recall hearing much. Everything's about Ukraine, Russia, and Israel and Gaza right now. So I'm not hearing a lot about climate change in the news, really. Of my own personal research, I do that, of course. Um, and somebody mentioned Paul Beckwith, and that's a good name there. Somebody, go on YouTube and check out Paul Beckwith, Beckwith. He's got a lot of good things to say about it, and Regan Parenton's site as well. Um, and of course, said guest, Dr. Guy McPherson's uh, channel as well.
And you can find my work at guymcpherson.com. And you can find where Paul Beckwith defames me and calls himself a scientist on his website.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know there was a feud there.
Oh, there's no feud.
Oh,
There's just untoward language, we'll say.
gotcha. Okay. I'm sorry. Somebody's trying desperately to get a hold of me. And I don't know. So okay, well, okay, yeah. There's going to be a lot of antagonism out there, among scientists and stuff like that. I mean, everybody agrees on everything, and reasonable people can disagree. I get that, but um, there's very few scientists I think that wholeheartedly believe that none of this is happening. I mean, there's going to be some dissent. You expect that. That's usually
Well,
amongst the That's usually tied in with some sort of political conservative group.
well, and I should point out that I didn't know anything about abrupt, irreversible climate change until after I left active service at the university. And so all of my research is rooted in the peer-reviewed literature produced by other scholars. So I
Right.
haven't been in a position to conduct research of my own, except for secondary research, reading, organizing, synthesizing other papers. So when I reach a conclusion, it's only because other people smarter than me have already reached that conclusion.
Okay. Cool. Sorry. There's my neighbor's telling me there's a robber in our neighborhood. So okay.
Is it a
Um,
is it a camp robber or a human robber?
a human robber. So, I guess he called the police. He's just warning me. Sorry about that. Okay. Um, no, I need to get back on track here. What do you?
If
Okay, so it's good.
if you want to put your address there in the chat, probably a bunch of those people who are paying attention would run over there and save the day.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
You know, I recognize some of those names. They all seem like decent people to me. So,
Tim Tapio is checking out the thing here.
yep.
You can use the letter U in that word, Kim. You don't have to use an asterisk. It's okay. We're all adults here. I don't believe in censorship. But anyway, I appreciate it. Let's see. Robert Leisure is asking, which region of which continent will the first mass extinction event most likely occur? Well, from heat wave, fire, flood, extreme. When do you think it's going to hit first? Like hit
Well,
most majorly first?
okay. Well, we're already in the midst of a mass extinction event, and we have been for quite a long time. E.O. Wilson wrote about it in his 2000 and I don't remember what book, but we've known that we're in the midst of a mass extinction event for quite a long time. It's at least the 9th mass extinction event on the planet, not the 6th. And so where's it going to have the most profound impact first? Well, I suspect, and I've been saying this for a long time to the point that it's become embarrassing because I haven't died yet. I think it will happen in the interior of large continents first because they are so ill protected from the ocean, for example. The ocean is a great ameliorator that ensures that it doesn't get really hot or really cold if you're within a few miles or maybe even a few hundred miles of the coast for an ocean. So I suspect it'll be in the interior of large continents, and we're already seeing that obviously in Africa, where the intersection between poverty and environmental change has reached its maximum. But we're also seeing a lot of deaths in a lot of other places, large continents like Australia and South America, and to a lesser extent, North America, because this is where the money is. There's so much money lying around here that governments are able to mitigate for what would be lethal temperatures elsewhere here in this country.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's economic considerations as well, and even some racial ones. Because some of the areas, like as far as like what are people industries tend to like put like all the bad chemically stuff like in poor neighborhoods, so that they can keep it away from the rich ones. I'm sure that wasn't intentional. But you know, there's all, and that's one of the things I was saying earlier about like what concerns me so much, besides just like this apocalyptic prediction, is just like what leads up to it is like it just sort of step by step kind of falls away and into disarray as we see it happening. You have more and more problems going to be happening. These competing groups of people are just going to like converge on each other because it's your fault. No, it's your fault. We have to stop you. No, we have to stop you. Politics isn't going to do it. Money's not going to do it. So it's people are going to like freak out, and I mean, you see the protests about climate change all over now, even more so with like the Palestine thing. But for and against like different like policies being introduced again in Europe, all over Europe, that farmers are just taking their turbines and big huge tractors into downtown areas and spraying manure and dumping manure and food scraps and bales of hay everywhere on government buildings and just driving right through police barricades and chasing police away and stuff like that. I mean, it's madness, man. And again, I don't blame them because these are very draconian policies being, regulations being imposed on them. I mean, the attempt of the regulations is to curb climate change, so I can't be opposed to that, But like I've been wondering this for a while. I'm like, people aren't going to put up with this, right, wrong, or indifferent. They're not going to.
Right.
We see that
Yeah.
happening now.
Probably most of us remember how people acted during the pandemic,
Yeah.
and there were relatively insignificant things going on at the grocery store, like you couldn't get toilet paper,
Right.
you couldn't
Right.
get dairy products, and people went bananas. And everybody knew this was a relatively short-term proposition, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right. Yeah.
nobody thought the pandemic was going to last forever. We're just stuck with it, not being able to get toilet paper. And
Right.
my response to that is garbage in, garbage out. You don't eat that stuff, you don't need to use the toilet paper.
There you go. They just drink water for a year. But no, I'm just kidding. Or figure out another way. But yeah, no, it's gonna like there's just the interconnectedness of the three like primary types of systems we have across the globe: the social, the political, and the economic. One triggers the other, and they all affect each other, and I'm really concerned about it. Like I think it's gonna get really bad, like really bad.
Yeah, I think it is going to get really bad. I think already is really bad in some places so far for relatively short periods of time. There have been pretty significant protests throughout Western Europe and especially in the London metropolitan area and 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 also in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
and lots of places that have experienced these relatively minor things that they come and they go. They're here for a week or 10 days or whatever, and then they get under control. Whatever, maybe the problem goes away or it is alleviated somehow. But I agree with you. We're certainly headed for something longer term that is going to
Yeah.
have far greater impacts on our society than most of us are willing to admit right now. And I don't look
Yeah.
forward to that.
Well, I don't either. I like my life being peaceful and not, suffering from perturbations of like, gunfire, or whatever else it is, or robbers in my neighborhood. I don't know. Maybe he's reacting to all these regulations. I'm not sure. I'll check that out after the show. But yeah, no, it's a scary situation, and it's a scary imagery to consider. And again, like they're the protests. I mean, there are anti climate change protesters, environmentalist activists, like shutting down like bridges and highways and intersections. And we're not hearing about them as much anymore because I think again the global world is focused on these two wars that are happening. But it's still happening. You can look for it. Just go on YouTube and Greta Thunberg or something like that. You'll find it. It's very much happening, and people are getting mad at that. You see people getting out of their cars and like dragging these protesters like off the road, and trying to like slowly drive through the crowds and everything else. And so there's going to be more tension and chaos there. Like it's just everything is just coming to like this point of singularity. It's just going to go
Right. It's almost as if the entire society is coming apart at the seams.
Yeah, I think we're in social decline for sure. I think this is the end in a lot of different ways. Haiti's in a revolution. What, over 1,000 criminals escaped from jail in Haiti or something like that? How does that happen? And then they just formed into gangs to go take over the government. How does 1,000 people get out of jail? That's weird. Okay, not a very good jail. So it's just chaos everywhere, man. It's just nuts. We have this very controversial election coming up in this country. And climate change is on the docket. You're not hearing about that as much. You're hearing about like, Biden's old age and stuttering issues and, Trump's just utter idiocy. But Trump is a climate change denier. He thinks it's a hoax. The
Yes,
other things aside, that is what really freaks me out about him the most, is he's going to get in there and he's going to start doing things he should not be doing.
yes.
And that's not okay.
No, absolutely not. I've been saying since I was old enough to talk that the latest president is the worst president of my lifetime. And I
I mean,
thought we
every
could,
single time there was the okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I thought we could do no worse than Trump last time around. And sure
Mm.
enough, we got somebody who's completely incompetent,
Right, well,
incoherent, probably can't say his own name. Are you kidding me?
yeah.
It's
No, he's unbelievable.
horrifying.
He can barely complete a sentence.
Right. It's absolutely horrifying. And this is the leader of the so-called free world? You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, well, isn't it the anecdote or rumor that what's her face? Delano Roosevelt was running the country because FDR couldn't. That whole thing. I don't know if there's any
Right.
direct evidence for that, but I mean, people say it.
Right.
Yeah, because he was just unable to, and yeah, okay, well, that's yeah, no, it's not great either. So that's going to be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, this is a Green Party show, and we have our own candidates that we're going to choose from coming up here in a week or so. Jill Stein's kind of high on the list there, and Jill Stein's a great lady, has a lot of good ideas. Very difficult challenges and obstacles to overcome for third parties. Because I mean, the whole situation is rigged by the duopoly to keep us off the ballots in multiple states. The standards for the duopoly is like here, and for us, for any third party, it's like way up here, just numerically, as far as the amount of petition names to be signed. Like, for example, this isn't exactly right, but just to illustrate the proportion or the ratio, as like in Tennessee, you might need 1,000 signatures to get on a ballot if you're a Democrat or Republican. If you're a third party, you would need like 10,000. Like, it's
Oh,
nuts.
well,
Yeah, no,
that
it's
seems
crazy.
good. And you're saying that's not fair?
That's what I'm saying. Yes, I'm charging them with injustice and unfairness.
Wow.
So what we got here? Obviously, the optics: Bush dumb, Obama dumber, Trump dumbest. Now we're sliding with senile Biden. Yes, we are.
Yay.
So yay! So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see what happens. But then there's this rumor going around that the billionaires are building bunkers for themselves. Gates and what's his face from Facebook, and they're building bunkers. I mean, if I was a billionaire, that's what I would do. If I was Tesla or Elon Musk, I'd build myself a spaceship and just take off.
Well, interestingly, that was my goal when I moved to New
Mm.
Mexico, extremely rural New Mexico, and I built a bunker for myself in the way of a homestead, and it included a 40-foot cargo container buried below ground as a root cellar to put food in that would
There you
last a long time.
go. Oh, good.
And then I discovered the aerosol masking effect, the best kept secret in climate science. And also there's the issue of if people aren't paying attention, if a significant number of people decide to live off grid and just go underneath the radar, then a whole bunch of nuclear power plants are going to melt down. They're going to strip away stratospheric ozone and superheat the planet beyond survivability for any life at all. And this was demonstrated in the 2021 film Finch
Yeah.
in a very subtle way. I mean,
Hmm.
I doubt if you didn't know that nuclear power plants melting down would cause that outcome, then you probably didn't get it from the film. But if you know about it, yes, it's right there. It's right in plain sight. So the
Yeah.
writers of Finch knew what was going on, but does anybody else? I
Don't
can't
look up.
find them.
That was another good one.
Yes, yes, I love the final scene. I thought that was fantastic.
Mhm.
We really did have everything, didn't we?
Yeah, really
That,
drives the
that's
point home, doesn't it? Yeah.
that's a signature line.
Yeah. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, no, it's not, and there's something, having studied systems science, one thing that I do know is that like centralized power and authority tends to not be a great idea. Decentralized, when systems are super complex, usually they run more efficiently when they're decentralized. And political powers are very centralized types of powers and forces and groups. And like these COP, meetings and stuff like that. I'm like, we're waiting for like, out of the whole population of the planet, a very small group of people to kind of like fix everything for the rest of us. And I wonder if that's just a really bad way of going about it. Like, just like local communities, start doing your thing. Okay, you need to like go green, start getting organic stuff going on, permaculture methods and stuff like that. Start dealing with your own pollution problems and stuff like that. Instead of waiting for somebody else to come in and say, "Okay, we figured out what you're going to do," even though you knew the whole time. It was like during the pandemic when the whole thing about like tests. The CDC wouldn't let personal doctors get tests from anybody but them, even though then they had to wait for the tests to be made and distributed and everything else. When the doctor's like, I know a dude in Korea, South Korea, who can send me like 10,000 tests right now. No, you're not allowed to do that because we're the big bad, tough guy CDC. Like, the centralization of power is not a good idea. It's very, very inefficient. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. I'm an
Decentralized
anarchist.
power structures. Do I mean anarchy? Kind of. Not
Yes,
anarchy in the sense of chaos, just anarchy in the sense of decentralization. That's what anarchy, the better
right.
aspects of anarchy is.
Chaos
Uh,
is the
yeah,
absence of rules. Anarchy is the absence of rulers. It's an
thank you. There
important
you go.
point.
Yeah. Everybody has a moral center. Everybody has the ability to reason through things and come up with a better idea. That's what you need for societies for people to get along. You don't need external forces determining that for you. Sometimes, obviously, there's going to be some bad apples who do bad things. You need to be able to protect the community, but that's most people are mostly good most of the time. That's kind of the libertarian motto. Like, you don't need these like draconian forces teaching, telling you exactly what to do all the time. It's ridiculous. You probably know how to live a decent life and how to treat people
Right.
well.
Well, and
Obsolete optics. Speaking of just, oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
this is my argument against religions. People say that without religions, we'd all go nutso and start killing each other. Really?
Which is the
Really?
exact opposite of what actually happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you if you want to
they're
find
real. Yeah,
if you want to find violence on this planet, look in religious groups.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's the first place you should look. Okay, so obsolete optics. Speaking of Jill Stein, what was she doing sitting at the table? Oh, General Mike Flynn and Vladimir Putin? I don't know. I have no idea. That's her business. I saw that video and I have no idea what she was doing there. Bet you $1. Phoenix, Arizona, or Dallas will be the first to suffer a major heat event. Like Guy said, the interior of continents after September, October, kiss stable, predictable weather. Bye bye. That's from Robert Leisure. Um, Okay, yeah. So, well, I mean, yeah, I'm guessing the places that are already super hot now are just going to get hotter than is sustainable for any like living creature. I mean, Death Valley is already like pretty much
Oh
called Death
yes,
Valley for a reason. Like, if
and if
that gets hotter, like it's all good.
yes, and if we can't grow grains at a large scale, we're screwed anyway.
Yeah.
Bottom line, it requires the ability to grow, store, and distribute grains at scale to support any civilization. We don't have that, civilization goes away. Those nuclear power plants melt down. I don't care how much farmland you have in the interior Western United States, you're still dead.
Yeah, yeah. You're dead. You're not. Well, okay, that's a positive note down. Anything you want to plug before we call it? You want to just remember you can go to Dr. Guy McPherson's website, Regan Parenton, his as well. Other people on YouTube. I won't say his name because I guess you guys are not getting along.
Well,
But
uh, you can find all my work at guymcpherson.com, and thanks to everybody for leaving comments in
mhm,
the comment bar there.
yeah,
Um, how much heat is El Nino? Kim asks, how much heat is El Nino and how much is us? Well, it's interesting because we had an unprecedented triple dip La Nina, which greatly cooled the planet. And so now we're seeing an El Nino southern oscillation, which releases greenhouse gases and temperature, releases heat from the ocean in the world. And so, how much? Well, ultimately, you could argue that it's all us because we're the ones who put those greenhouse gases and all that heat in the ocean to begin with.
right.
And how much is El Nino and how much is us? Well, I don't like to get into the game of it's all Bill Gates's fault and none of it is Mark Zuckerberg's fault. It's all of our faults.
Right.
and as a consequence, we're not responsible for any of it as individuals.
Interesting. No, that's a good way to say it. Um, yeah. And how long is El Nino supposed to last this year? Like, when does it end?
I've heard so many conflicting reports. Some people say that we're uh, nearly at the end, that it's going to end the day after tomorrow, and others are saying it's going to hang on for another year. So I don't know that anybody knows, largely as a result of that triple dip La Nina that we had that served as such a cooling event for a long time. And Robert Leisure has some great advice there in the comment chat.
Live early, know how your loved ones, let them know how you feel. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, now's the time to, carpe diem, seize the day, and make your life extraordinary. Because it's we don't know what exactly when it's going to happen, but it's certainly coming. If we had a
Well,
triple dip La Nina, go ahead.
and it's never a bad time to tell people you love them. I
Yeah.
used to tell my students that in classrooms, and there's always some jackass who said, "I love you, Guy." This is on the first day of class. Really? Because I don't like you at all.
That's funny. If we had a triple dip La Nina, should we be expecting a triple bump El Nino in response? Well, you kind of just addressed that. Like, we don't know exactly
Yeah.
what, if it's going to be the day after tomorrow, like you said, or a year from now. But
Yeah.
the effects are palatable, folks. They're notable. You can see them happen all the time. Again, it's just all over the planet. Really nasty stuff, unexpected stuff. That's the gist of it right there. That's what you're looking at. Is that record highs, record floods, and record rain, and it didn't snow in New England. What do you mean it didn't snow in New England? That's nuts. It rained instead. 12 feet of snow like just east of San Francisco. That's insanity. You know,
Right.
Okay. Record wildfires. I mean, just it goes on. And then what did Trump want to do? He wanted to rake up the leaves in the forest, and that was going to like solve it. I mean, are you mind? It's like it's all these like
Notice
petty, futile attempts. What's that?
he wants the other people to rake up the leaves.
Well, he
He's
wants
never
everybody
seen
else to
it.
do it.
He's never
I don't
seen a
think.
rake.
Yeah, I don't know if he's ever like used a power tool, or even a hammer. But yeah, okay. But okay, cool. Well, we're just about at the end here. Go ahead.
It's interesting that bringing up Trump brings to your mind using a hammer. Oh, never mind.
Oh, I think I see. Okay.
Maybe you
Are you
went
being covertly naughty?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not very covert,
I
apparently.
get it. No, I get it. Who's laughing who's the chuckler in the background?
This is partner Pauline, and she leaves an occasional comment here.
Hi, Pauline.
Hi.
Pauline
That was
Project Love. That's her. Pauline Project Love.
Oh, that's sweet. That's cool. All right. Well, all right. Well, maybe she can come on next time too. All right. So I'm gonna end it there. So I gotta go find out if we're being robbed all over the place. Thank you so much, Dr. Guy McPherson. Seriously, it's always a pleasure to have you on. You're very insightful, and you have lots of good information that we all need to hear.
Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, and now that I'm confident that I have your email, I will be in touch, and we'll have you on again soon, hopefully, and sooner or later, and hopefully, again, like you said, hopefully scientists are wrong, and you'll be around for a while, but I wouldn't hold your breath on that. Anyway, everybody, thanks for tuning in for the Illinois Green Party. I'm your host, David Rich. Till next time, be good, be green. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Wendy Bell, please talk about wet bulb temperature. Can you do that quickly?
Okay. Wet bulb temperature refers to the combination of high temperature and high relative humidity. And for a long time, we thought it was a certain number. And as with almost everything involved with climate science, within the last year, we found out that a number much lower than what we thought was dangerous is actually dangerous. So anybody who's lived in a hot, humid area knows that that can be lethal. That combination of heat and humidity is a bad idea. And we're seeing people die from it all over the planet. The critical number used to be 35 degrees C at approximately 100% humidity, but there's been peer-reviewed publications that have ratcheted that number way down, even for healthy young adults.
Okay, well, more good news. All right,
So,
cool. All right, well,
so
thanks
I,
for asking the question there.
I think basically my conclusion is that we're screwed and we're screwed. Oh, and there's one more thing, we're screwed.
Yeah, okay. So that's the trifecta, everybody. So yeah, tell your everybody you love them and try to enjoy yourself. So all right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. See you next time.